Hey everyone, and welcome to my Shadow Visions championship recap for the round of 16 edition. I'm still very sick, but there are still games that have been played and more to play this upcoming weekend, so the show will go on. And I have a very special guest that will help me carry the show this week, who is LaSharkus. LaSharkus, how are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. Not sick, so doing better than you, it sounds like. But um, glad to be here. Glad you invited me on, and hopefully I can help out a little bit with the commentary.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you. For those that don't know you very well, how'd you get started in the Marble Blast community?
So I mean, it was a long time ago now. I got I think the Marble Blaster disc, um, for Christmas, like in sometime in the mid 2000s. Played that for a while. Didn't really realize there was an online community until Marvel West Ultra came around on the Xbox. Played that for a while. Then realized that Platinum existed. Joined that community. And then the username LaSharkus came into existence in 2018. I played that summer tournament, left for a bit, and just now came back. So been kind of there and just kind of been here, been gone, and just kind of did that back and forth for a while. But now I'm thinking I'm gonna stick around this time.
Awesome. I mean, I'm sure everyone in the community hopes that turns out to be true. What would you say is your main motivation for playing multiplayer?
Um, well, it kind of had something needed to fill the void after I quit playing Rocket League competitively. Um, because I graduated college and I'd been playing for my school's esports team for a while. Um, and I remember being decently good at it in back when I played the game a lot more back in 2018. So I figured, heck, why not try it out again? See where I get with it. And so I got back on and realized that I was completely washed, and so I started having to grind it out a lot more to get back to where I wanted to be. And I'm finally starting to feel like I'm getting close to where I was before, which is nice. But like my main motivation is just like I want to be back where I used to be, and I want to be able to compete with the best at the game.
Yeah, definitely true. I mean, you were for sure washed when you came back, but it's been good to
Oh
see
god, yeah, it was
your
terrible.
improvement over the past couple of months. Um, well, I'm sure you know how we do things here by now. We're gonna go through the recap from the play-ins. Some of these were discussed on the last week of the weekly recap, so we'll just kind of gloss over those unless you have stuff to add. But we do have a new little bit of a format for the slides, which is all of them are going to be having the full maps and points up here. My prediction is going to be in the bottom right for what I thought was going to happen. You can see for this first play in, which was the featured matchup for the playing week. I got the score right this time. Um, Connie versus Turk. And this is one of the ones that happened later on in the week, so we didn't actually cover it. Ended up going 4-2 to Connie. Was this kind of in line with your expectations for how the series would play out?
Oh yeah, I did. So I just scrolled back and found my bets. I bet Connie 4-1. Um, I just wasn't sure if Turk was gonna be able to take more than one game. Um, I think doubling up with Sprawl and Treasure Box after winning Sprawl, going to Treasure Box makes sense. And then of course he ended up winning both of those. So I mean, yeah, it's about what I expected. After I've played both of them a decent amount. I think Turk more than Connie, but I know how they both play, and this is about what I expected from the both of them.
Yeah, there was a lot of interesting things from watching this series. The warm up was agreed to be on Sprawl, and then Turk won even more convincingly than he did in the actual match, and then he immediately picked it um,
Yeah.
against Connie. I mean, I'm sure that was the plan from the get go, as he says it was. But yeah, and that was followed up by an absolute decimation on Citadel, where after the first couple spawns, Turk just kind of saved his energy for the rest of the series. As far as Connie's picks go, it was very predictable. I actually called all three of them in the preview for this match, which
Mhm.
was Citadel, Nadir, and Eye of the Storm. So very Connie like maps, but against an opponent like Turk that is really kind of by the book in terms of his map pool. it was extremely effective. Although Turk definitely practiced Eye of the Storm, and that led
Right.
to
Yeah.
that game being particularly close. And so that's kind of been a wrinkle that we've seen as Eye of the Storm has become the premier meme map of the tournament. Is that the people that are known for picking Eye of the Storm, they have to be careful because their opponents are starting to practice it against them and can be quite dangerous. I think
Yeah.
we have seen at least one upset on it so far.
Yeah. I mean, the Citadel is such a weird map because the physics are different. And I personally don't like playing it at all. It's just it feels like such a wonky map. Um, but so I'm not super shocked because I think Connie does practice that map quite a bit. So I'm not shocked by that score line. Because I just knowing Turk, that's not a map he's going to be good at. Knowing how he plays, that's just not a map he's going to fare well on. So
Yeah.
yeah, not a super shocking score there.
Would have loved to see this go to randomizer, but I think Turk just lost a little bit of steam in the middle part of Marble City. Kind of got a few very fortunate spawns and was
Yeah,
able to hold it after that. All right, moving on. We have the next play-in, which was another really good one. The
yeah,
8 seed Ignis up against 25 Jacob, which you would not think would be close by the seeding, but I think everyone had very different expectations compared to that coming in. Some even saying that Jacob would be able to take it.
yeah. So actually commentated this game. So I actually predicted 4-1 to Ignis beforehand. Um, Mostly because I had a feeling that Ignis would take at least one of Jacob's picks. Um, but I did not have Jacob taking any of Ignis's picks. So I was stunned when Jacob actually pulled off Parkour Peaks.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like that just it caught me completely off guard. It was tight the whole way through. There were times where Jacob was ahead by 10, 12 points before Ignis would swing it back and he'd be up 6. Um, and then eventually Jacob just pulled ahead right at the end. And honestly, like I said, I wasn't expecting it at all. Um, but it was a really good series. A few unfortunate mistakes here and there by Jacob kind of cost him down the stretch. Especially Megas was a big one where he missed out on like a double blue spawn, which is like that's just. I mean, he was camping it too. He was camping the double blue and he missed out on it.
Yeah,
I think Ignis got both of them. So
he did.
yeah, that was a pretty gnarly
Mm-hmm.
mistake there. And then Cragmire, incredible comeback from Jacob there. He was down like 40 at the start and came back and won that. Um, I was a little bit taken aback by the fact Ignis picked Core. But he was talking about it afterwards, and he said that if he didn't know what he was doing, then there's no way Jacob knew what he was doing. So he wouldn't have been practicing Core. So I guess if Ignis was comfortable with it, it worked out for him. But
It clearly did. I
yeah,
mean, it was
it did.
the
It
most
wasn't.
convincing score in the series. So
Yeah, yeah. So it's like, I was definitely kind of. I didn't like commentating it because that map sucks to commentate because you can't switch gravity
yeah,
with the camera. So, but I mean, it was a good series overall, and Requisite being as close as it was at the end definitely made it exciting because you could see how much Jacob really did not want his season to be over, as he kind of
yeah.
like fought. He really fought for it at the end.
Requisite
So
is a really tricky map because you'll have spawns that are worth 15 or 20 points, followed up by spawn after spawn of all reds that just
yeah,
take forever to clear. And so the map often comes down to some very crucial spawns, and all of those went the way of Ignis. Every time there
yeah,
was a blue at the top, it was Ignis getting it and being there first, and then Jacob had to slowly claw back some of those lesser value spawns, and it was just very frustrating to watch from his perspective. I'm sure if the spawns were a little bit more balanced, or he was able to take some of the blues, it would have been his map. And I mean, like you said, he could have won megas as well if he was just a little bit more controlled. He had a big lead at the start. Parkour Peaks was an interesting one because this is a map that I really don't like playing on high ping because with there only being 3 gems in a very small area, whoever gets there first is very important, as well as you need to be able to use the power ups as soon as you get them. A lot of the times
Right.
with the super speed, it's also very luck based. And so the fact that Jacob has a very similar like skill profile to Ignis, I think Parkour Peaks is not his strongest pick. But these two have a lot of like shared maps in common because they love kind of Basin Hill, they love Terrace Tundra,
Mhm.
and so that made it difficult for both of them to pick against each other. I think I would have liked to see a Sacred from Ignis because that one relies more on the map knowledge of the respawn abuse than it does about the raw mechanics, and I think that is an area that he would have had over Jacob. Um,
Right.
Other than that, yeah, it was a great series. Seeing
It's a great series,
Spires
though.
and Core come out was very unconventional.
Yeah, that was surprising from Ignis.
All right, moving on to play number 5. This was a huge upset. I'm pretty sure no one but A Game bet on Terry. I actually had 4-1 the other way, going towards Jax, as I think a lot of the community did, but it was actually Terry to take it 4-1.
Yeah, and I also commentated this game, so I Jack's winning sweep was not that big of a surprise. Especially considering and this is because of the fact that Terry joined late. I think Jax had way more reps on sweep because of practicing for the pre-seed. Um, and Terry joined like subbed in for Quill, so he just didn't have to practice sweep as much. So I'm not shocked by that. But then I think a lot of this came down to map familiarity. Um, I mean, just Terry picked all MBU maps, as you can see. And he won every single one of them by over 20 points. And
Yeah,
then Jax's picks. I mean, Duplex was just so unfortunate. I don't know if you watched that game, but
I did.
yeah, he just got chronically unlucky on Duplex. Um, that easily I think could have gone back his way, but Terry kind of eked that one out, and then
Terry also
um,
picked Duplex during the regular season. He was not unfamiliar with that map.
okay. So I mean, yeah, that also plays in then, but just based on the score, just based on the score of it being so close, I think map familiarity was a big problem here for Jax
Hmm.
because on the maps that Terry was familiar with, Jax was getting smoked. Um,
Right, and I think this is actually a good like stylistic matchup for Terry because he's gonna pick MVU maps against no matter who. But Jax is a
yeah,
newer player to the community and hasn't really grown up playing those MVU maps and is nowhere near as familiar as the average multiplayer participant is in this tournament on those MVU maps. And
yeah,
I think that really worked in Terry's favor this series to cause a surprising upset, along with some very excellent play, of course.
right. And I just based on who was online more in the lead up to it, I saw Terry online practicing a lot more than I saw Jax online. So I'm not super, like I said, I'm not super shocked by this, but like looking at it in hindsight, it makes sense that this upset did happen. I didn't pick it personally. I actually picked Jax to win 4-2. But looking back, it's like I saw Terry practicing more. He was more familiar with maps that Jax was completely unfamiliar with. And he's good enough that he could keep up on a map like Duplex and take a close one. So I'm not super shocked in hindsight, but it was a pretty big upset in terms of like the betting odds and everything.
Yeah, I think if Jax did a little bit more prep on like the map selection because he's picked a lot of like PQ stuff that really would have thrown Terry for a loop.
Yep.
Um, I think if he was able to take duplex, we would have easily seen a randomizer here. But four
Yeah,
one does
more,
not
more
tell
than
the whole
likely.
story.
No, it does not. So, like I said, yeah, Jax got smoked on the MBU maps. So that's
Yeah,
that.
very scary. All right, moving on to the next playing, which was another good one. We had Kali 29, the 18 seed, versus Surge G, the 15 seed. I also got this exactly wrong, predicting a 4-2 for Kali, but it was Surge to take it 4-2.
I actually was one of the few people to pick Surge here. It was just kind of a gut feeling. I actually got the series exactly right. I got 4-2 to Surge. So I just felt like based on what I knew about both players and I saw how unlucky Surge had been at the start of the year. Or at the start, yeah, at the start of the season. Losing back-to-back randomizers, one to A game, one to KGO. Um, it's like I don't think he finished 3-3, right? A 3-3 just does
Yeah.
not tell the full story of how he got there. Um,
He
so
was
I
actually the
I
top seeded 3-3 player.
right, because I mean, of course, with with the Swiss round worked and everything, he wouldn't have, he would have played much tougher opponents down the stretch. But in theory, he was 2 games off from being 5-1. You know, but again, of course, that's not how the Swiss stages
Deathlore
work.
was
But if
only
you,
6 games away from being undefeated.
oh, no, 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 I mean like two games in the match sets.
Oh,
Because
okay.
he lost back-to-back randomizers.
I see.
That's what I meant. I meant in the sets themselves, not just the games. I meant like the not the series, but the games themselves in the series. Um,
Sure.
so, and again, I know that's not how the Swiss stage worked, because if he had won the first one, he doesn't play KGO week 2 and all that sort of jazz.
No, I
So,
think if he wins either of those, he gets smoked the next week, to be honest. But
yeah, so I don't know. Personally, I felt like he had gotten really unlucky to be in the position he was in. And I also knew that he was really not looking to continue his play and loss streak that I'd been hearing about leading up to it. So I was like, okay, I'm thinking that he's going to finally break that streak. Kale had been playing okay during the regular season, but I hadn't seen anything that made me immediately say, yeah, he's gonna go back to old form. Yeah, he's gonna, turn back into this, turn back into the player he used to be a while ago. So I just like, you know what? I'm just gonna go with it. That's gonna be my one upset pick for the round, and I ended up being right on it. So,
well, not even upset if you look at the seeds, but
well, not upset if you look at the seed, but if you look at the betting, it's like,
it was a little bit Kali favored, and I think a lot of that
yeah,
came from the fact that Kali's historically done a lot better in playoffs.
right,
When the higher stake matches are occurring. Last year he took MBO to randomizer. One of those maps was Epicenter that he was able to take. So
mm,
I think on his maps like Epicenter and Tilo are very very favored to him, as he was able to win them by 20 points each. Skate Battle Royale, he's gonna insist he got unlucky. That happens on most games that don't go his way.
yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah, Serge was very good to be able to take all three of his picks, and that's ultimately what gave him the series.
right. So, I mean, very good series overall. It was one of the few that I actually could not watch live, because it was at a really weird time. I remember thinking it was like super early in the morning. I think it was like 2, 3 in the morning for me. So I was like, yeah, that's just not gonna work. But yeah, no, I did watch it back a bit, and it was a good series overall.
Yep. All right. So Serge's gonna move on to face E Guy. Next up, we have
Yep.
plan number 7, and this is starting to get into the territory of not even close. Babarika took a very decisive 4-0, which I think the entire community was predicting.
Yeah, no, I did not think that this was going to be particularly close. With all due respect to Yoshi, of course. Um, But Babariga is just based on how I've seen him play. I didn't think this was going to be a particularly close series in the slightest. Um,
The one
there
map
was
that I
definitely.
say was kind of close for a period of time was King of the Ring, but that's just kind of
Mhm.
how it goes on King of the Ring.
Yeah, it's just
And
how it goes.
I think this is probably the only time we're going to see King of the Ring and Battle Q revisited this playoffs, actually.
More than likely. And Battle Cube Revisited did stay close for the first like minute and a half or 2 minutes, and then Babariga just pulled ahead. So, um, like I said, I'm not shocked in the slightest by this result, but that's just kind of how it goes. This was a really high seed versus a really low seed, so not shocked.
Yeah. Moving on to another 4-0 sweep. This one was definitely a little bit closer, though. Andy taking a sweep against Robert. Robert had a very good start on Skate Park Square, I remember, and looking at the score lines, a lot of them were pretty close, actually, as well, with the exception of Terrace Tundra that Andy picked last.
Yeah, I did the commentary for this one as well, and to be frank, I definitely expected a little bit better from Robert. I felt like he was underseeded going into it. I know he's a good player. I've seen him play before. So I was thinking that, with with that in mind, I was expecting maybe I was expecting 1 or 2 games going in the favor of Robert, maybe on maps that he's more familiar with than Endy, but it just didn't come off for him at all. Marble City ended up being a good match. It was pretty neck and neck the whole time, and then Endy just pulled away at the end. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, but again, I expected a little bit better from Robert, but sometimes that's just how it goes.
And week 6 of Swiss, he played against Ignis and was able to win one game and tie another. So I think if
Yeah.
we saw that level of play here, perhaps one of the games could have gone his way. But India was definitely moving on regardless.
Yeah, I had Endy winning 4-2.
All right, moving on to the next play-in. This is another one that you might have some insight on. Mazik, which is the lower seed, taking a decisive victory over Kago, with Kago's one win coming from a 2-point game on Stadium.
Yeah, so leading up to this, Keigo was definitely stressing out a bit about it because I was like, dude, Mazik is very good at the game. Like, do not be fooled by the fact that he is a lower seed than you, that he finished 3-3 and you finished 4-2. Like, he's very good at the game. Um, and so he was stressing out about it, and he wasn't sure what to pick. Baba Rika told him that, hey, um, you would probably do better on speed-based maps, so Stadium, Bowl, all that sort of thing, as opposed to technical maps where it's going to be a lot more just get close to the spawn and just use a power up type thing. It's like just speed strat the whole time, or like non-blast heavy maps. So that was Kago's idea, was he was gonna try to take out blasts and megas from Mazik's arsenal a bit. And it did work out on Stadium. It did not work on Bull. Um, and Kago actually left the room to go get water while sitting on top of the wall.
Oh no.
Because yeah, he just went on top of the wall on Bull and was like, I'm just gonna go get some water real quick. I'll be back.
Yeah, that
And
score is
I
not a
think,
typo.
yeah, it's not a typo. He straight up just said, I'm gonna go get water. Be right back. Um, because like I said, he did get a little bit upset about that score because he felt like Mazik probably could have just let the clock run, but that was just him being upset about it because obviously like nobody wants to lose by 101 points regardless of how it happened. Um, but yeah, and then the Stadium match was really good. If you haven't seen it, you should go watch it. Insane gamble at the end by Kago to win that. Um, because if he had even tied, or if they both grabbed the second to last gem at the same time, the match ends in a tie. If they had both, like, he timed it almost perfectly to where Mazik was dropping just almost perfectly onto it, and then he just rolls onto it, then super speeds off to the next spawn, grabs the last gem, and wins it instead of losing, because he was losing and time wasting while losing. So
hmm
yeah, it was an insane gamble for that to work out. And then the rest of the series, besides Triple Trail, wasn't particularly close. Um, I think Kago got really unlucky a bit on Treasure Box as well. There were a few times where he was like maybe an inch off of getting a blue and then would hit an edge or something. But I think a lot of that comes down to nerves, because
Yeah.
he's like, I don't want my season to be over, and all that sort of stuff. He had worked really hard to get as good as he had gotten at the game in such a short period of time. Um,
Yeah.
that he just really didn't want it to be over. But
Understandable.
he,
Definitely a hard
yeah,
situation to be in with this bracket, but
yeah,
that's
just
how
a
it
tough
is.
spot to be in. Yep.
All right. Next one. Yeah, I'm not going to spend too much time here either. This was the top seed of the play in, John, up against Plasma, who just snuck in as the bottom seed of the play ins.
Yep.
Easy 4-0, but I will say Plasma was looking like a boss on Nadir for a minute there.
Yeah, he did play Nadir pretty well. I'm not shocked by this being a sweep either.
Yeah.
Um, John's just a better player in general right now, and quite frankly, it is unfortunate if you're Plasma, sneaking into the play-ins and then immediately just getting put up against John, who all things considered could have had a bye, if a few things had gone his way. or if like a couple more things had gone his way, he would have had a bye, So it's like he's a player that is good enough to be at that level, where he could have gotten that bye, but um, just unfortunate if you're Plasma, because it does kind of feel like you're getting lined up to go to the slaughterhouse a bit.
Yeah. I mean, main takeaway is that nice job making the play in Plasma. I hope you keep like playing and
Yeah.
coming back next year. Would love to see more. Okay, and then finally we have Power John versus Wilches. I think this is one that most people kind of expected to go this way. I got the prediction right, but the way in which Power John played, incorporating a lot more blast and leaving the last red, it felt like he was a different player. And if we saw some of that, he might have had a much better time in the Swiss stage itself. It was just a little bit too late for him.
Yeah, I noticed that as well, especially on hunting around. He definitely suddenly started going for blasts. I was honestly a bit surprised that he picked hunting around, considering the ping disadvantage, and then also considering that again, it's such a blast heavy map that I was like, dude, we're just gonna just throw you around the whole time. Like this is gonna be such an ugly match because like you don't use blasts. Like I don't know what he's thinking here.
Well,
And then he
Wilches
came out and
actually
started using.
lost a hunting around game to Osas earlier in the regular season, so I think that may have
Really?
been part of the plan
Yeah.
there.
Okay.
Is that
Yeah.
Wilches was shown to be maybe a little bit susceptible.
Right. And then going to Triple Trail, I was really thinking that this was a terrible pick from the get-go by Welch's because Power John
It's a PQ map.
literally only plays PQ maps.
Hmm.
It's like, why would you do that? Like, that's a terrible idea. Um, Obviously, that was Power John's only win. But it's like, yeah, I don't know. Picking a PQ map against somebody who literally, speed runs PQ maps is like not a great plan. Will still almost pulled it off anyway, but yeah, definitely a questionable pick there. But um, that ended up being Power John's only win. Every single other one was not particularly close.
Yeah, there was a moment on Duplex where it looked like Power John was about to complete the comeback of a lifetime,
Yep.
but Wilches had a very nice
Yeah.
blue snipe to kind of slam the
Yeah.
door on
Close it
that
out
one.
there. Yep. Yeah. He was. Yeah. He came back. He was down pretty heavy, and then
Like
he
50
just.
points, it felt like. And
He was down huge,
it
and
would
then
have been the
kind of
biggest comeback, I feel like, of the tournament if he was able to.
easily would have been the biggest. But then yeah, well, I think he used a little too much energy getting back into the game, and then Wilson was able to just turn it back on for a second, and close it out.
Yep. All right. Well, that concludes all of the playing reviews. Let's hop on over to
I think
the.
you're missing one.
Oh, right. The match of the week.
Uh,
Yeah.
I was wondering when on earth I was going to get brought up here.
Yeah. I couldn't entirely exempt you from this one, unfortunately, but.
Nah, you're good. You're good. And I do want to talk about it because, you know, but I was wondering when I was going to get brought up here.
Yeah, the premier match for the week that was pretty much unanimously voted to be the match of the week. I think it was like 70-80% of the votes, which is
Yeah, and this was the
unusual.
only one that went to randomizer, and there were so many moments that just were so either lucky or unlucky depending on how you want to look at it. Um definitely was a fun series to play in hindsight.
As
I'm
as
trying
a
to hold my
viewer, it
tongue.
was an
As a
amazing
viewer, I'm
series.
sure it was a great match. As a viewer, it was sure it was a great match. It was not great for my heart. But it was a good series.
Yeah, well, maybe picking at it a little bit more specifically, I guess what was your kind of strategy coming in with both A Game's picks and your picks? Kind of what was your prep like for? Did you know what you were gonna pick
So
coming in?
I don't know if he knew what I was gonna pick, but I absolutely knew what he would pick. He tried to psych me out a little bit by trying to bring up maps that he knows I don't like. Um, he was talking about, oh, we're gonna play Ramps Revamped, and I'm like, no, you're not gonna pick
And
that because I've
Sprawl
been and Sprawl. But even then, yeah, and he tried to say, I swear that man was sandbagging against me. I'm gonna hold
in
that.
the warm up.
But No, not in the warm up. In the he had asked me to play in the build up to the match. Asked me to play a couple practice games, and I won by like 40 on Sprawl against him. And like I don't typically win on Sprawl, and when I do, it's never by that much. So I was like, "There's no way this guy's sandbagging. He wants me to pick Sprawl because he played Connie super close on that map." So I was like, "There's no way this man wants me to doesn't want me to pick this map." So
Hmm.
I was just like, all right, I'm not gonna pick it. Um, but my logic was I wanted to go with maps I was comfortable with, obviously. But I felt and I still feel that I'm a faster player than most people in the game.
Hmm.
And it's not necessarily especially him, but I think I'm a faster player than he is. Um, and so open maps are going to be favored to me. Maps where I can really kind of get out ahead and just be faster to the next spawn constantly are going to be maps where I do well. So that's my Maximo Center, obviously. Map I'm super comfortable with. Map where I can route a lot of power ups in a row and just be faster in general. And that's why you see the score the way it is. And then the prep personally was I said if he picks Citadel, I'm sacking Citadel. Did not want to practice it. Said screw that. I'm not practicing Citadel.
A Game actually said
I
he was thinking about Citadel, but with the way he was playing on the day, decided that it wouldn't work out for him.
really, yeah, I
Just because
didn't
of how
practice
many
it at
mistakes he was
all.
making with his control.
Yeah. Um, and then Eye of the Storm was the one I practiced the most out of all the maps I knew he was gonna pick. Um, and I'm still so upset about how that ended. Because I was leading
You had
by
a big lead,
10,
yeah.
15. I had a big lead and I just could not hold it. I got stuck in the tornado at some point and I was like, this is such bullshit. I can't get out of the tornado. And I was literally just watching the lead just vanish and I was like, this is so bad. And then I kept it close at the end, which again I was happy about that I was able to keep it so close because this was a map that quite frankly, even with how I had been practicing and how I had been playing it, I still was not super comfortable with. So I'll take a 4 point loss there. Marble Land was where things started really kind of going like, okay, this is bad. I see why people are but I see why people picked him to win so overwhelmingly. Because he was kicking my ass at first.
Hmm.
Um, I
You were
think
down a lot.
I was down a lot at the beginning of that map, and I had to like really claw my way back in. I got bailed out by the fact that I did have good power ups at the end. Because if I didn't, then it was just cooked. But yeah, just the tie game, and then being able to come back out and then win by 45 was nice too. But um, yeah,
Was
that
there any
was that.
difference in your play between the two games, or do you?
As soon as that game ended in a tie, I just felt my nerves shut off.
Mm-hmm.
They were gone. And I believe I'd have to watch this back, but I believe there were a lot fewer blue spawns in the second run, which I think honestly the blues are what carried him the first run.
Okay.
So I think a lot of it came down to that. Um,
Were you
but
aware at the end of the tie like what A Game's plan was?
So the thing about that map, because of how much I had played it in both single player and multiplayer, I know that there's a blast near the edge of that mud section, right? And I just picked up the second to last gem of that spot, and I turn around for a split second to look at the last gem, and I notice the blast is gone,
Oh, okay.
and I'm like, okay, I know what he's doing, and there's one more red in the water still and I can't go get that other red because it's in that little the cube triangle thing, and
Mm-hmm.
he'll just blast me out of there, and I'll lose. So I just haul ass over to the other red, and I'm like, this is the only way that this is gonna work. And I had to get lucky because if the wave pattern was wrong, I was
Yeah,
cooked.
that's true.
Because yeah, if the waves were at the wrong part of the cycle, I wasn't gonna be able to get the red. So I got really kind of lucky there. And of course I got a little ticked at the time because he said good game as soon as he saw me leave. But I kind of was like, as soon as I saw where the waves were, I was like, okay, yeah, I got at least, assuming it didn't double spawn, because if it double spawned, I think my PC would have been out the window.
Well, I could have double spawned
Um,
on you too.
it could have double spawned on me too, so I can't really say anything. But yeah, so I was yeah, that was the whole idea. I noticed the blast was gone, and I was like, okay, yep, this is the only way this is gonna work out for me. So
Yeah.
I just played for the tie.
And this was another instance that, a lot of people kind of noted this, that a tie for the game ended up with whoever picked the map kind of dominating the rematch. That's kind of been a
Yep.
trend throughout the tournament. Do you have any thoughts on that or why that is?
Um, I think map familiarity is the big thing. I think when a map ends in a tie like that, and someone has played somebody so close, um, to it, like to so close to the person who picked it, um, they spend a lot more energy on that first run,
Mm-hmm.
and they just are worn out. And then the second run through, I think, is where you start to see a lot more mistakes come out by the player who didn't pick the map. Um, and then it's just a lot more map familiarity at that point, knowing how to get from point A to point B, and you're not as tired about on the map as somebody who hasn't played it as much.
Yeah. Okay, I definitely agree with that. Um, with the rest of the series, was there anything that kind of A game did that surprised you, or you surprised yourself, or is this mostly
Mm,
what you expected the series to play out like?
um, Marble Agility Course, I got extremely annoyed because it felt like I couldn't do anything. I was just getting ragdolled the whole time. But I'm not shocked because I knew going in that he was good at that map, and I figured I knew what three maps he was gonna pick. Battle Cube was not one of them. I was expecting Eye of the Storm, Marble Agility Course, and Citadel. Those were the three I was expecting out of.
Mm-hmm.
So, and those are also in the order of like how much I practiced them: Eye of the Storm, Marble Agility Course, Citadel. Um, but Battle Cube was a map I felt like really could have gone either way. Even though, yeah, 6 points on a map like Battle Cube where every spawn 4. The only reason that it's a 6 point margin there is because he didn't play the gems at the end necessarily. He was just playing to prevent me from getting to the gems.
Yeah.
Um, he just started mega-ing and super speeding into me over and over again, and it was like, this sucks. Like, this just sucks, bro. Like, just let me pick up the gems. Damn. And Gems Ahoy by me was a game time decision. It just came down to I felt more comfortable playing it than Cascade Falls, which was initially going to be my third pick. Um,
Mm-hmm.
because I felt like I had been getting chronically unlucky with some of the spawns, and Cascade Falls is a map that spawns a lot of blues. So I was like, dude, if A Game keeps getting as lucky as he has been with some of the spawns on Marble Land, and also I felt like Eye of the Storm was a little unlucky for me as well. Um, I really don't want to play a map where I feel like some of the spawns are so heavily blue dependent. I'm just like, no, not gonna do it. So I went Gems Ahoy. Obviously worked out. It was a close game the entire time. Worked out. Um, and then Outlook, bruh. I don't
No, you don't have to talk about
that.
Outlook if you don't want to.
No, we can. It was just, oh my god, there were so many moments where I was like, dude, this is the worst. Like I accidentally overshoot a blue by like a quarter inch and then fall off the map and lose the whole spawn. And then I was put second late to the next time it spawns there. And I was just watching the lead go up and up and up. And I'm like, okay, I have to gamble here because it's the only way I'm coming back on this.
Mm-hmm.
Um and then it just kept not spawning near me. I was waiting. I was like, one of these spawns has to be over here at some point. And it just kept spawning down below, like basically right on top of them. And I was like, yep, that's game. um Obviously, I got really annoyed by how he acted at the end, but I won't go into that too much. Um, you know, time wasting is a part of the game. Time wasting and taunting, not as nice, especially in a series as contested as this one was. It felt a little disrespectful, but that's all I got to say about it.
Cool. Well, I'll move on then. And let's go to the tournament dashboard. We have T-Hurst third, Terry, of course, with the largest playing upset. Going to be
Yep.
the number 21 seed moving on to the round of 16. So good for him. At the top, everyone that got a bye this week was given some sort of kind of elo boost to make up for the fact that they didn't get to win a game.
Yep.
Obviously, we saw how John versus Plasma went, so you can kind of imagine what Farmer's Wife versus Zedron would have looked like.
Right.
So yeah, that was just factored in, and then John and Welch's moved up pretty significantly from their wins over Plasma and Power John. Other than that, the big gainer is Terry, of course, who's up 7 positions and is now
Yeah.
over yourself and Turk and Surge and Jax, who went down 4 as a result of the match.
Yep.
So unless I end up taking a lot of elo from this guy next week, he's gonna end pretty high on the leaderboards, which is pretty cool for him.
Yep. I mean, nothing really. I don't really have much to say personally. I'm a little surprised by the fact that despite the sweep, Endy went down in rank here.
I think it's because
That
Robert was so low and his wins weren't that much better, like
okay.
score wise, that
Yeah.
someone like John who won by like 50 points is going to be higher. So he just got passed instead,
Yep.
at least from what I can tell. I mean, if
Yep.
you also look, these two are like really close in numbers, whereas like the jump to E guy is really big.
Yeah.
So it,
The jump from the from like the top four down is huge.
yeah.
And Frostfire is like way up there. Um, Not shocking, obviously. I've played a fair amount of games against him, against you, E-Guy, John, Andy. And this stacks up about how I'd rank everybody. Um, Definitely feel like I'm being criminally underrated at 19, but that's just me being me. Um, and I didn't move apparently, so I'll take that, I guess. I didn't move
Yeah.
despite losing. I think it's because I actually won the series on PD.
Yep, I think
Um,
that definitely played a factor. And also, there wasn't really anyone that close to you other than Turk, who's above you. So
yep,
cool.
yep. But yep, that's basically all I had to say about that. That's about it there.
Jumping into the round of 16, I have upgraded all of the predictions now that we have fewer games to have this sort of preview with the maps. And I'm mostly going to just be taking the maps from what they've already picked this tournament and not speculating on what I've seen in practice or in their past tournaments like I did during the regular season. Since this is obviously a lot more work to have to fill out for everyone. But first
Yep.
off is a match that is in contention for match of the week, in my humble opinion. We have the 8 versus the 9, Ignis and MBO going toe to toe. Looking at what we've predicted, I've gone for a randomizer series going the way of MBO, and you've also gone for randomizer series, but giving priority to Ignis. So, kind of, what do you expect from this series, and why do you think Ignis is going to take it?
This is just based on it was how I was feeling at the time. Um, but I personally think Ignis is a slightly better player right now. That's just the gist of it. I think a randomizer right now would favor Ignis slightly, because of the fact that he's so technically proficient that I just think that in in a randomizer scenario, with how the maps line up in a randomizer, I think just generally speaking, I think he'd be slightly better off in that kind of situation. Obviously, could go either way. It is going to be such a tight series. I really don't see this going anywhere except randomizer. Um And yeah, so it's really just a gut feeling for me. That was what it came down to at the end when I was making that decision.
Yeah, initially I also had Ignis, but I was thinking back to week 6 against Robert and also the play-in against Jacob, where you know Jacob could have probably won 4 of those games that they ended up
Yeah.
playing. I think MBO is just, I don't know, a little bit more solid across the entire pool, which is why I given him the
Mm,
edge in a potential randomizer game. Is that I think Ignis is very specialized at the picks he's good at. I don't think MBO has a chance in the world if Ignis picks parkour peaks, if MBO picks base and hill. I think it's done.
yeah.
So Ignis has a much better chance of taking MBO's picks than MBO has of taking Ignis picks. But I'm giving some faith that MBO will be able to find maps that Ignis is a little bit less familiar with, less excited to play, because obviously neither of these players practice all that much. MBO does practice, but I haven't really seen him on all that much lately. It feels like he's kind of just accepting
I've seen
his
Ignis.
fate in this tournament
Yeah.
a little bit. Obviously he's going to give Ignis all he has, but he's not really going out of his way to kind of make it as likely as possible.
Yeah. And then again, like odds are the reward for winning this match is having to play Frostfire.
Yeah.
So not
But
gonna be fun. But
Ignis did take Frostfire to randomizer during the Swiss
yep.
rounds. So,
Which was also something I did factor into this was that, when Ignis plays well, he plays really freaking well.
yeah. And I think
So
Ignis's specialized map pool really works well against Frostfire, who has some map weaknesses compared to other top players that can and has been exploited thus far this tournament.
yep.
Um, so, yeah, I think if MBO wins, it's going to be an easy sweep for Frostfire, but Ignis can definitely take some maps off Frost.
Yep.
And you can see in the middle here, they really don't have anything in common. So,
No, not the slightest. I've played both of them before in practice, and yeah, what MBO is good at is not what Ignis is good at, and what Ignis is good at is not what MBO is good at. So that's what's gonna. It's really gonna come down to what the hell the randomizer pulls out
yeah.
at the end.
Yeah, and I think Ignis's maps are probably a bit better on higher ping overall. MBO is going to have a hard time winning all 3 of his picks, but I think he can do it.
Yep.
All right, moving on. We have the next match, which is Zedron versus A Game. These two actually had more in common map pool wise than I thought because they both picked Bowl and Treasure Box during the regular season. And that was
Right.
not just for farming week 1 purposes either. They both picked it in week 6
Okay.
against very important matchups of Connie and I think Endy was the other one. So
I think so. I can double check
yeah,
real
I'm
quick.
pretty
I have
sure
it
it
up.
was
Yeah,
Endy.
it is. It was Endy. Yep. And he
Yeah.
won that by 13.
Yep, and A Game also was able to win Treasure Box, I think, against Connie by like 1 point.
It was a close one. I remember that. It was a 1.172 171 win.
Yeah.
So
So they both won on Treasure Box in week 6. So I don't think we're gonna see that pulled out this series, especially not
unlikely.
when A Game has much better maps to pick into Zedron that Zedron is not known for, like Vibrancy Grounds. I think that is a good potential option for A Game, considering he was able to win against Connie, and that was at ping disadvantage too. There's not going to be any notable ping disadvantage in this series. Overall, I think for anyone to play Zedron, I think A Game has a much better chance at surprising with some map wins. I think if you were the one to win that series, I think Zedron would have a more likely chance to sweep against you just
Easy.
because you play similar styles.
I play similarly, but I play worse. I'm just like
Yeah,
I'm a slower version of
you're
him,
a
and
worse Zedron. I hope that feels good.
it's like I'll take it. Why not? I mean, I'll take the comparison. Why not? But it's like, yeah, if I had to play him and I tried to play my best maps, my best maps are going to be maps that he kills me on. So it's like, okay,
Yep. But obviously,
yeah,
there's no way Zedron loses Marvel City or Horizon, even with A Game's
no.
improvement across the entire pool. So for that reason, I've gone for 4-1, and you've actually gone for a sweep with this one.
That mostly just comes down to the fact that I know Zedron and I know how well he practices but doesn't tell anybody. He does a lot of secret grind sessions. Like, so I'm thinking he's gonna be practicing these maps even if they're not even if it's not super obvious that he's practicing the maps that we expect A Game to pull out. Um And quite frankly, I do think the only way A game takes a map is Eye of the Storm.
Hmm.
Um,
But he may as well use
and
it. I mean,
he may as well
he's
use
got he's
it,
got
you
two picks
know.
of it, and if he wins this, he's playing me or Frost, I guess. No, it'd be me or
It'd be
Terry.
you. Yeah, you or Terry.
Yeah,
Um, so and even then Zedron, I've played Zedron there and he smoked me. So now albeit, I
that was
was still
before your
playing on
practice.
that was before I started really practicing it, and that was before before Randomity guy, gave me that blue pack. So I wasn't really able to see as well, but I definitely think Zedron is. I think Zedron's gonna win this in a sweep. I just don't see this being particularly close.
Interesting. I was actually between a 4-1 and a 4-2 because I think if a game really shows up on the day, I think he could take two games. I think he could take Eye of the Storm. And I think he could take another map that Zedron probably won't expect. Um,
If he shows up the way he showed up against me, this is not gonna be close.
but if he shows up the way he did against Connie, then I
Yeah,
then I think he can do some
then
damage.
sure. Yes, yeah, for sure. But again, just if it depends which version of him shows. That's the problem right now. Is just consistency for him.
Right. So we'll have to see. But I think the whole world is predicting Zedron to move on here. So
Yeah,
good luck, A
yeah,
game. And then we have my game against Terry. This is probably the biggest mismatch in terms of seeding. There's also Nakas Mazik, which is the exact same. It's just 3 versus 19.
yep.
So I think most people are probably favoring me. For my own maps here, I just threw in what I played in week 6 as well as QIL since I played it twice. I don't really want to be too biased here. And then Terry, he's played a lot of these maps like Sprawl, Marbled Up twice. I obviously didn't predict myself, but you've gone for a 4-0 sweep, and I understand that you also voted this map as the most. This match is the most exciting one this week, so you can elaborate on that.
It's the unction, bruh. Y'all some old heads. I just want to see the old heads fight it out. um, but no. So it's only for that reason that I voted exciting. Just because I know that you two are both. Um, it's gonna be a fun match. Not necessarily. I don't think it's necessarily gonna be close, but I know how you two are, and I know y'all two are gonna make it fun anyway. Um, I am hoping for straight MBU maps here, but that's just me being hopeful. Um, and I do think based on what I know about Terry, he's going to pick those first two maps that you have listed for him there. Like those are going to be his two maps that he picks. Um,
Yeah,
at least from what I know about him. Uh, and I do think that you will win in a sweep. I swept Terry earlier in the season, and you kick my ass every time we play. So I just don't see how Terry's going to
by
keep
the
up with
transitive
you.
property.
By the transitive property, you're gonna kick his ass.
I see.
Um, so again, I don't know. I think it's gonna be a fun match. I don't think it's gonna be particularly close though.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, we did have the Barbarica versus Blue Sock, which was the combined age of me, and then this and
Yeah,
versus Terry is both of us are in our upper 20s, so this is definitely gonna be the
yeah. So
oldest
yeah, it's
match.
the oldest match by far. So
Yeah,
definitely the unction here.
yeah. Very excited to play Terry. Love the guy. Enjoyed talking to him and
Yeah.
working on stuff
And
with
that's
him.
that's the big one is that this is going to be a match where it's going to be no hard feelings regardless, which I always like more than anything is like matches where it's like no matter what happens, they're gonna be happy it's over and just kind of go back to shaking hands and it's over with. But you know,
Yeah, when I
it'll be
first
fun.
started playing multiplayer, I would call him an herbivore. So maybe he has some lingering resentment for that.
I remember when you were helping me practice, you were like, "Yeah, this guy's an just blast and use megas," and I was like, "Okay, I'll do it."
Yeah, Terry is the herbivore player, so I'm excited to see him. All right, moving on, we have Eguy versus Sir G, who moved on after a win against Kali that we talked about earlier. I think
Yep.
this one is maybe even more than the other game likely to be a stomp, as everyone knows what good form Eguy is in. I think we've both gone for sweeps here. Yeah.
Yep.
So, anything
Yeah.
to note here, or not really?
The only map I can see Surge winning here is sweep. That's the only map.
But you guys very
Um,
good at sweep.
Eguy is very good at sweep, but that is like the one map that I see Surge playing constantly when he practices.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he's logged a fair amount of time there. It's really the only map that I could see him having a chance on. Um, because I don't think he has a chance on Parkour Peaks. I don't think he has a chance on Basin Hill. Um, and then whatever if he picks Terrace Tundra, that's just a disaster waiting to happen.
Yeah, but
Um,
I think one small wrinkle here is that Eguy is expecting to make a run to finals with the bracket that he has available to him, and he's going to want to save some of these picks like Parkour
that is a
Peaks.
fair point. There is a fair point there.
So I'm not sure
He
we're going to
might
see
want to
his
save that.
100% best map picks coming out, but I don't think it really matters for the outcome.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I forced him to use one of his picks earlier like one of his good picks earlier this year, and he proceeded to beat me by 100, which was not very fun. Not a fun time. But
Hey, it's an
I
honor you
I
got it one of those good picks out. That means you were
I got one of
respectable.
his good picks out. So I think if Surge wants to have a chance, I think his one other chance that he has, and this is gonna be a little bit of a callback to when I almost beat him there. He has to pick Cube Isle. I don't
Oh,
know what it is, but Eguy's not great at Cube Isle. If he wants to have a chance at winning a map, that's gonna be the one.
interesting. Yeah, I feel like everything else that I've put here on the right column, Eguy is definitely proficient at, even if
Yeah, he's
it's
at
not
least
his
proficient at
favorite.
it. I think Terrace Tundra is one of his better maps. You were there when we were rotating around, and I did beat him there, but it was like one of those games where I just kind of turned it on for a minute before forgetting how to play again. Um, but he was definitely very good at that map, and he does seem to enjoy playing it. So you know. I think that if Terry Sunder does come out here, that's not going to favor Surge very much.
Yeah, I think Serge is just going to be happy that he's broken the round of 16 this time, and definitely props for
Yeah,
doing that. And good luck finding something that can take
yeah,
Eguy down because he is known to have a bad day every once in a while. He actually was
yeah,
knocked out in the round of 16 last year against Turk. So there is always
yeah.
potential for
I
a huge
definitely
upset.
wouldn't have predicted that. I definitely would not have predicted that if I were here. But
Yeah.
that happens.
All right, then we have my personal match of the week. Number
Yeah,
7, Nakas against Mazik. This should not be a good game based on the seeds alone, but I think we all know that Mazik's 19
yeah.
is a little bit of an
That's a bit of a
underperformance.
lie. Is that is a lie.
Yep.
Um,
I've gone for a randomizer win to Mazik, and you've gone for a randomizer win to Nakas. So, much like the MBO Ignis game earlier, we both think this one's going to go the distance.
yeah. I really don't see this falling short of a randomizer, and I will bring up the point that I think I know both of them a decent amount. I think I know Nakas more than I know Mazik, but what I know about both of these players, Nakas is going to be much cooler in a randomizer situation, much calmer in a randomizer situation. I
Mm-hmm.
think simply on nerves, if it goes to randomizer, Nakas is going to win.
Yeah, I think that's a
Just
very
because,
fair shout given what we've seen over the course of the tournament because Nakas literally hasn't played any practice in the last half of the Swiss stage and also hasn't practiced yet for this series. Um,
has not, no.
so for that reason,
So,
I've given the edge to Mazik. I also think Mazik is a little bit better across the whole pool, but I entirely see a world where Nakas wins. So
yeah. And honestly, no matter who goes through here, it will be deserved, in my opinion. Both of these players are, you know, um, they're quite good, and both of them deserve, honestly, to be into. But unfortunately for both of them, they got pitted up against each other, and no matter what happens, one of them's gonna have to lose. So,
yeah, very bad draw for
you
Nakas.
very bad draw for Nakas, though. I'm sure Nakas was sitting there hoping for a Kago mirror, but wasn't on the card.
Yeah, and honestly, I think this is a good draw for Mazik considering his seed.
considering the
he could have gotten
speed.
Zedron or Eguy.
Someone who's been practicing more consistently, yeah. And obviously it comes down to, Naka just doesn't have the time necessarily.
Yeah.
Um, so it's not like it's a disinterest in the game. It just comes down to time and availability. But like I said, I think Nakas is regardless still so good at the game when they do play that it's going to be tough. I think it's going to be really tough to take any of their maps, based on what I've seen, their best maps anyway. And I do think both players are going to have to break out their best maps regardless.
Yep.
Um, yeah, this is going to be a series where you have to play your best stuff, or you will not win. Um, and it's just really going to come down to what the hell the randomizer decides to kind of crap out for him at the end.
Yeah, it's interesting because I feel like the series could be more one-sided than you're hinting at. I think Mazik could have a very good day and beat Nakas. I think Nakas could have a good day or not. Mazik have a lot of nerves, and I think it could be a 4-1 either way. To be honest, but I think the
Yeah,
more
it's
likely
going to be
outcome is it's
close.
close. It's
Yeah.
somewhere in the middle. Um,
Yeah. Well, I think that goes for most series, It's like, someone shows up and like if like for example, I would have won my series a game if I had taken Eye of the Storm, but it was a 4-point loss. So I do think,
yeah,
it depends on the day, it depends a little bit on depends on, the nerves. The
yeah. I
nerves
guess I'm
are
just
really going to
saying there's
matter.
more variability in these two
Yeah,
players than there
yeah.
is in the average match.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. I agree with what you're saying. Yeah.
Anyway, nothing too special here, and the map picks themselves. I expect the skate park score to come out for sure.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely. Yeah. After beating Jean there for sure. Yeah.
yeah,
Um, yeah. And then the rest of these, I think Stadium is going to be if Nakas does choose to break that out. Um, because that's the one map where
Kago won. I mean,
Kago
if
won
Kago can win,
there.
I'm sure Nakas thinks they can.
Yeah.
So,
Um, and I think Boba Rica beat Mazik there the week prior as well.
yep. So Mazik has
Um,
now gotten 2 losses on Stadium to players that he was predicted to beat. So
so yeah, so I do think, it's gonna come down to just map selection, and I do think the maps that Nakas is good at um are maps that, they're good to a point where it's gonna be to win. And they're really going to need to be playing at a very, very high level. And based on just like what I know about Mazik, mentally not in a great place all the time. Pressure gets to him sometimes. Might be a little bit of nerves there.
mhm. Okay, moving on to John versus Wilch. Um, they actually have so much maps in common that I put 3 here, and there's still another one that I couldn't fit, which is Marble City.
Oh my
I would
god.
not have expected that given John's very unique map pool, but there's actually
Yep.
quite a bit of overlap with what Wilches has brought out. Of course, Acro 2 is one of his favorites on the right here, and then John has these classics of Nadir and Hunting Around that he only really plays. Um, but yeah, I think most people are expecting John to take a fairly convincing win. I've gone for a 4-1. You've gone for a 4-0 sweep. So why do you think that's going to happen?
Um, Mostly because I am. Well, I'm also trying to figure out if Tournament John's a real thing or not.
It's very
It just
real.
Yeah. So it's like if Tournament John's a real thing, I don't being particularly close. All due respect to Wilsh. But if like I said, it just mostly just comes down to the fact that the way Jean plays can be so infuriating to play against that it genuinely could throw Wilsh off his game entirely. Acropolis 2 is a map that he is good at, yeah, but it's so mega and blast heavy that I almost feel like it still favors Jean heavily. Um, it's mostly, I think, just going to come down to whether or not Jean can land his blasts and his megas on Ashburn or not. Because I think that's Welch's home server. So, um,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's where Jean has struggled the most with opponents has been on Ashburn or really on any server that isn't Nuremberg,
With the exception of
um,
Zedron.
with the exception of Zedron. But even then, Zedron isn't necessarily close to Ashburn, so there might have been a higher ping there than normal. But like you and I get 6-7 ping to
I
Ashburn.
get 30, thank you.
You get 30 ping to okay, never mind. I get like 6 or 7 ping. So,
Yeah, I win all our games at ping disadvantage.
oh yeah, okay, yeah, just show off, why don't you? Um, but yeah, so I don't know. It's really just gonna come down to the ping advantage is gonna be as bad as I expect it to be, which I don't expect it to be that bad. So I got John in a sweep. It's gonna come down to what maps Welch picks, but if he does end up going with Acropolis 2, like I just the way John plays, that's going to be a nasty pick, especially on Nuremberg.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think John is very good at Acropolis 2, considering the fact that it has a million megas in it, at least.
Yeah,
He should be better than he is, I
he
guess.
should be better than he is, but he's not.
He hasn't cracked that one yet. So I think there is a chance that Wilches is able to find something there. But yeah, overall, it's going to be interesting because both of these players like Megas a decent amount, and both of them
Yep.
have to play their picks on high ping. So
Yep.
I think if we see Wilches in the form that he showed against Ignis in their match, I think this one could be a lot more interesting than I think it's likely to be. But like you were saying, Tournament John is just a different beast, and I'm not sure how much Tournament John is like him being a god when the stakes are on, or just everyone else having nerves and he doesn't. But it might just be a little bit of both.
I don't know. I don't know which it is either. Because the reality is knowing how good John is in the tournament, I should not be kicking his ass every time we play in practice because it just does not make sense to me at all. Um, but
Practice John, I'm not sure would make the play-ins.
no, practice John is not good, bro. I can't explain it, and it makes it so much worse. Sitting here, I'm like, yeah, this guy, and then I'm like, yeah, no, I think if we played a 7-game series, I think he'd win in 5. That's not good.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it mostly just comes down to the fact that I think the things that Welch is good at gets just so negated by how much John is better at them. So, I think we'll see a sweep here.
Interesting. I would be surprised if Wilches doesn't take at least one game, but yeah, I can see where
I
you're
mean,
coming from.
I don't know if you have a map that you have in mind for what Welch would win on, but out of all of those, I think it'd be Triple Trail.
I have a map in mind that's not on here, but I don't want to spoil it
Fair
because I
enough.
know Wilches
Fair
is
enough.
working on it.
Fair enough.
So
Well said,
we'll
Ward.
see if the surprise comes.
Yep.
All right, and then we have this week's featured matchup, which I don't think deserves to be the featured matchup. I'm not gonna lie, but
I think it's Ignis versus MBO personally.
I think it's that or Mazik Narcus. I think both of those
Or
are above
Mazda
this
Naka's,
one
yeah.
for sure. But it was
Right.
voted. The Connie Collective has given
The
their
Conic have
vote
decided.
that this is going to be the featured matchup. And fair enough, because it is quite likely to be Connie's last match of this tournament season, but something is always possible. And in their Swiss meeting, two of the games were exceedingly close to going the way of Connie, both Nadir and Ida Storm. But of course, Frost is not just going to sit there and not practice them and be susceptible again. You have to continue finding new material against Frost if you want to have a chance. So I've gone for a 4-2, but you have gone for a 4-1. You think it's Connie's going to get one game, which I think is also a very valid prediction. Kind of what are your thoughts on this series?
Knowing both players, right? I just don't I think Connie takes one of the gimmick maps, and then the rest of it just goes all Frostfire. That's really the end of the end of it. There is one map that isn't on here that I think Connie would have a decent chance of winning. And I'm not gonna say that out loud because I don't know if Connie is going to. I don't know if Connie knows it. I don't know if Frostfire knows it, but definitely one map that isn't listed here that I think Connie would have a fair shot on. But I could see Connie honestly winning any of those three that you have listed on the right there. Um,
Mm-hmm.
all of them seem like fair shouts. I think Connie is the world record holder single player hunt for Nadir. Um, so there is that. And then Citadel and Eye of the Storm, both of which are just kind of gimmick maps in general. I could see Connie winning either of those, but not both, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that does make sense. But I think one of these three plus the map that you were thinking about, which I have a feeling I know what it is,
Yeah.
um, could end up with a 4-2. So that's what I've gone for. But yeah, I think unless Frost just has a lot of nerves or a very bad day, I think he's going to be taking this one. And I do think Frost doesn't
Yeah.
play as well as he does in practice as the official
Oh
matches.
yeah, yeah. No, I mean, because when I play Frost, it is never particularly close. So definitely not one of my favorite matchups. I mean, he's a great guy and all, but dear God, does he kick my ass? Um,
Yeah, if Frost
but
played
yeah,
like he did in practice and official matches, I think this tournament would just be
yeah, it'd
over
be
already.
decided. It'd be over. I think, yeah, and man, I was just thinking about it again. It's like, man, top part of the bracket is bloodbath because I was thinking like, yeah, because I could see Zedron potentially. And then, but he's on the same side of the bracket, and I could also see you beating him, and he's on the same side of the bracket. So it's like, okay, bit of a mess up there, but
Very
um,
fun to be a part of.
very fun to be a part of. And honestly, I'm not. I'm glad I get to like watch it as an out from an outside perspective instead of having to be in it still, because I would have been there too, but not
Yeah,
not where I want to be.
and this is also
Um,
a rough draw for Frost. Let's not forget because Eguy got
yeah,
Surge, and Frost has to get Connie at the 16 seed. So
and Connie at the 16 is honestly really unfortunate. I mean, that match against A game was ridiculously close. Obviously got swept out by Frost 5. But having and then a Robert before that played you. That's never fun. I remember that one. ND and Herzelis. So I mean, just not not a fun draw for Frostfire rather, because just Connie is a lot better than the 16 seed would indicate.
yep. Anyway, that is the last of the quarter. Not it's not quarterfinals already. Jeez, last of the round of 16. 8 matches. That's
Yep.
why I thought quarter. But any final thoughts on the tournament or this upcoming week or anything at all?
I mean, other than just like best of luck to everybody, and congrats to Boba Rica for advancing to the quarter already.
Yep.
That's really all I got to say. Just congrats to Boba Rica, and good luck to everybody else. And yeah, thanks for having me on.
Of course, it's been a pleasure to have you, and you've done a very good job making it so I don't have to talk all that much.
Yeah, because I can only imagine your throat would be extremely sore by now.
Yeah, it's already rough. And we'll talk
Yeah,
about
my.
Bob Rika
Mm.
versus Endy next week, so don't worry about that, dear viewers. But yeah, as always, leave a comment, ping me somewhere if you have any thoughts on the show. I hope that the changes I made this week are cool and y'all enjoy it. So everyone, good luck in your games. Thanks, LaSharkus, for joining me, and see you next time.
Yep, sounds good.